Good morning, Baltimore. It is Monday, July 13th, and thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the Early Birds podcast. I'm your host, Matt Weyrich, alongside Ravens reporter Sam Cohn. Sam, the All-Star break has arrived. The Orioles get a 4-day break here, with just as they're starting to play some of their best baseball of the season. They're coming off of a weekend sweep of the Royals, but a much-needed break for many guys on this team after what has been a very up and down first half. But how are you doing, man?
I'm good. The Orioles take a break. We do not. We get on the podcast and we talk about everything that's going on. And we should at least start by mentioning we spent some of the last episode poking a bit of fun at the Orioles' inability to get over the 3 to 4 win streak hump. And they finally done it. So worth acknowledging up top that they're, as you said, they're going into the break with high spirits.
0-7 coming into Sunday's game when riding a winning streak of at least 3 games, because they were all only 3 games. But they finally get that 4th win in a row. They sweep the Royals after winning the series finale against the Cubs earlier in the homestand and go into the break winning 6 of their last 9. So definitely some momentum there for the Orioles after they kind of reached a low point of the season. 9 games under 500. They've slowly been climbing back up, and now at the break, they're just 2 games out. So their whole season really is right in front of them, and they have a chance here over the second half to shake off all of the inconsistencies that they had in that first half and kind of turn their season around and vault themselves into playoff position. But before we talk about the first half and what kind of the news of the day, Blaze Alexander, all of that, we did want to hit on the draft, which we talked about, previewed last episode. 20 picks were made for the Orioles, 11 pitchers, 9 position players, headlined by their number 7 overall selection, Eric Booth Jr. Out of Oak Grove High School in Mississippi. We talked about him scouting report-wise last episode, but certainly a big swing of a pick, a guy with 80 grade speed, who also has some power potential and is going to be a bit of a project. The Orioles don't have a long track record of drafting high school guys at the top of the draft. This is just the 3rd time in the Mike Elias era they've used a first-round pick on a high school player, Jackson Holliday and Slater DeBrun being the others. But now Booth, who we have not yet heard from media perspective, we're still waiting for the Orioles to make him available. But with an exciting skill set for Booth, certainly one where they are taking a big swing.
Yeah, and I'd encourage our listeners to go back and listen to our last episode for a little bit more. We don't have to get too much into Booth. Matt, you did a great job previewing him, and that kind of takes us into some of our larger conversation we're having about the draft. Eric Booth was not necessarily a consensus to the Orioles, but certainly a name that was coming up a lot on mock drafts to the Orioles. Mocked, but not really a consensus. But you were on top of it, and we talked about him in the last episode. I'm curious, when you kind of take a step back, looking at the board as a whole, do you feel like the board did shake out the way you or maybe the Orioles might have expected?
I think there were some surprises, honestly, that it kind of left them with a couple of the options that maybe they were mocked to have taken. But the top 3-4 picks were pretty much chalk. The one pitcher that could have fallen to them, Jackson Flora, went 4th overall to the Giants. But then the next 2 picks by the Pirates and the Royals right in front of Baltimore were Derek Curiel of LSU, outfielder, and Zion Rose, outfielder out of Louisville. Their overall ranking on MLB Pipeline's top draft rankings were 12th and 30th. So a bit of a reach there for both of those guys, for those 2 teams, which left the Orioles not just with Booth available, but also the guy who was maybe even more often mocked to the Orioles at number 7 was Drew Burress, the outfielder from Georgia Tech. And Baltimore certainly has a track record of drafting college outfielders, college position players in general. So it felt like a big match there, but that was really assuming that Booth wasn't going to be available. And Booth was kind of part of maybe that top 6 guys who were considered to be a big tier 1 of the draft. And Burress, while he certainly would have been maybe on a better path to get to the majors quickly than Booth, who is going to be more of a project. He has a kind of a funky stance that's going to need to be reworked in the minor leagues. He holds his hands really high up and up to his chin, away from his body, and it kind of creates this awkward swing path that isn't really projectable for long-term power, which he's expected to grow into. But certainly for the Orioles, having both Burress and Booth at that spot is probably not what they expected, and they kind of showed their hand that they believed that Booth was the better player on their board, which shows you that they, despite their track record, they aren't afraid to take a high school player when the opportunity arises for somebody who they really see that kind of upside in. And man, he has that upside. I mean, I'm talking a 30-30 type player. And on Booth, I thought it was really interesting. Will Robertson, their first time draft director, vice president of domestic scouting, spoke at both after day one and day two. And after day one, said that they brought Booth in for a private pre-draft workout at their spring training complex down in Sarasota. And one of the things that really stood out to them that they weren't necessarily sure about was his arm in the outfield. It was kind of considered a fringy arm and maybe the weak part of his skill set. And he was throwing out runners on the base paths during the drills that they were running, and they walked away really impressed and feeling like it had taken a step forward from where it was maybe a year ago. So somebody who impressed them in all facets of the game and is going to have to go through their entire system, and it might take a few years for Orioles fans see him in Baltimore, but certainly becomes a huge part of their future moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, based on everything you said, I know you talked about this too, but like it sounds like Booth is more of a project player, a long-term gamble. I think if there's a Ravens comp, like maybe it's a little bit of Jacoby Lane, a younger guy who you see a lot of talent in. Obviously, baseball and football are different sports in the sense of the timeline of getting to where you want them to be. But Matt, I'm curious, do you have a comp for Eric Booth?
Yeah, I'd say that comp for Booth, somebody with a ton of speed and really good power. I mean, maybe like O'Neal Cruz from the Pittsburgh Pirates, somebody who hits the ball extremely hard, one of the highest exit velos in baseball, but also is really fast on the base paths. He started out as a shortstop and moved to center field, which Booth is a center fielder right now, and it looks like they're going to try to keep him there moving forward. So I would say that somebody with a really exciting tools. I mean, you talk about Booth versus Burris. Burris was a guy that you would probably expect to be at the major leagues. Like you would say you draft him and the full expectation is he's going to get there maybe sooner rather than later and make an impact at the major league level, but his ceiling might be a little bit more capped. With Booth, there is certainly some risk there, but I think scouts do still really like his swing and not necessarily his swing, but the way his ability to make contact and time up pitches and eye for the strike zone, that once he makes his mechanics, as long as it doesn't throw him completely out of whack, that is still something going to translate and he'll make the major leagues. But he has all-star potential, a guy who could truly be an impact bat in the middle of their lineup and plays a premium position. So it's not a surprise why the Orioles see so much upside in him and why they were willing to kind of take a swing as opposed to going with their usual path and going the college player route.
I know I said that before we started getting into this specifically that you had done a great job teeing up him as a possibility for the draft, but this is the Early Birds podcast and we make the rules. And I'm going to change the rules. We're going to keep talking about it because I do have one more question. I'm just, Matt, I am curious, what kind of impact does Eric Booth make? What does he bring to the Orioles farm system as the consensus number one outfielder in this class?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to be a fringe top 100 prospect right off the bat, which the Orioles kind of don't really have like their headliners at this point anymore as far as guys all the way at the top. They're still, have graduated Samuel Basayo and Dylan Beavers. And since then, they've got your Trey Gibsons, your Luis De Leons, your Ike Irishes, Joseph Jurwa has had a big surge this year and got into a couple of top 100 lists, but nobody that is, a top 50 player, top 10 player in the minor leagues. And certainly Booth is maybe the best suited to become a prospect like that of anyone in their system. So I would imagine that as far as where he comes in right away, is not going to be ranked maybe super high. He might crack a couple of top 100 lists right away, considering how highly he was ranked coming into this draft. I would not be surprised to see him on a couple of lists here at the end of the season or going into next year. But it's really going to depend on how he acclimates at the professional levels. He'll go to rookie ball and build from the ground up. I mean, this is a kid who's born July 4th, 2008. Is the
That's
players
so
we're
crazy.
talking about. I know.
He was
It really
born
hurt.
on America's birthday and during the Obama administration.
Yes, very, very young player. It hurts my soul to see 2008 popping up on the DOBs for all of these prospects. But
That's funny.
he's got certainly a lot of work to do to get to the major leagues. But somebody who, right off the bat, is going to be one of the most exciting players in the Orioles farm system, if not maybe the most exciting, just based on his tools alone.
Yeah. The day one as a whole, they draft 4 guys. I think that's obviously what fans are going to be most excited about. Obviously, it's going to take time for any of these guys to wear Orioles across their chest. But when the team, I mean, I can't dig into the team too much because of the way they ended that first half and the way they're going to the All-Star break. But the way they've played for so much of the season, fans are understandably going to be looking to the future. The Orioles have always been always had a farm system that is the envy of the league. When you look at those four guys, how do you assess their day one picks as a whole and how Mike Elias did on day one of the draft?
Yeah, I mean, as far as impact talent, it's coming in on the position player side. You know, it said at the top, they drafted 11 pitchers and 9 position players, but 3 of their 4 day one picks, all being outfielders, all being center fielders, who Will Robertson said he expects all 3 of them to try and stay in center field. And just talking about their second round pick and fourth round pick, the other 2 outfielders, Ty Head, outfielder out of NC State, and another high school player, Kevin Roberts Jr. out of Jackson Prep High School in Mississippi. 2 very different prospects that the Orioles are going to have to work with. And I wrote about this in the Baltimore Sun and our Sunday morning editions. Certainly go check that out on the website there. But the Orioles kind of had this blend of their day one picks of 2 guys who had a ton of upside and shooting for the all-star caliber player, and 2 guys who maybe, I don't want to say higher floors, but more projectable guys who could step in right away, and you could kind of know what to expect from them coming from the college ranks. So for Head, you know, not a guy whose power stands out very much, more of a contact-oriented hitter, which is interesting because he didn't hit over 300 at the college level, which, you know, is kind of what is expected for somebody who comes in with those kinds of tools, but maybe more of a bit raw on that side, but certainly had a lot of success at NC State and is somebody who was a Gold Glove winner in center field for the college ranks this year. So really good defensive profile that I think the Orioles are very excited about. So maybe like a slap hitter type with a lot of speed, a guy who gets on base, like that isn't something that is going to get fans super excited, but somebody who I think the Orioles certainly can kind of plug into their farm system and expect to see moving up, you know, high A, double A as soon as next year. So we'll see what the progression looks like for him. Roberts, though, on the other hand, the 4th round pick, another high school player out of Mississippi, which is exactly what Booth is. They also brought him down to Sarasota for a look, and he might be, you want to talk about a potential comp, and, you know, fans don't freak out, but Elijah Green, Nationals prospect, is the comp here from a raw prospect standpoint.
Freak out. Everybody freak out.
The thing about Elijah Green is he has one of the highest strikeout rates in the minor leagues and has stalled in his progression, right? That hurts for a number 5 overall pick, which he was of the Nationals a couple of years ago. But for Roberts, who is a 4th round pick, you can afford to take a more of a swing like that. He has some swing and miss questions, particularly with breaking balls, and, you know, chasing pitches outside the zone. But man, he has some of the best raw power in the class. Somebody who hits absolute tanks, really strong arm, plays good center field as well, and is somebody who you can really dream on as being maybe even a 30-30 type player, similar to Eric Booth. And there's more questions about him, and that's why he fell to the 4th round. But I think somebody who is a really exciting test case in their ability to fix guys, because Vance Honeycutt is another example of a player they brought in with a lot of swing and miss questions. He was a 1st round pick, and so far he has really struggled to limit the strikeouts and has not been able to get past high A. But for Roberts now, they get him on the younger side, maybe a chance. You know, when you have a younger player with these swing and miss questions, you maybe feel a little bit better about being able to change it as opposed to a college player who's older and maybe more stuck to their habits. So we'll see what they can do with Roberts, but somebody who they are really excited about. And then the pitcher, the one pitcher they drafted on day one, Dominic Bagley out of Kansas. And fans are going to look at his ERA from college and maybe not be super thrilled. And you're actually going to look at the ERAs of a lot of pitchers that the Orioles drafted and not be very excited. A 5.22 ERA across his 3 years with the Jayhawks, but good strikeout rate, 6'2", throws a mid-90s fastball, slider, and has like a interesting 3/4 arm slot delivery. So really low walk rate, which is, you know, have that kind of command. So he's also built up a big workload. I believe 96 and 97 innings each of the last 2 years in college, which is a lot for a college pitcher. So he can kind of step right into the Orioles farm system and handle a big workload right away. Someone who can maybe get up to 120 to 150 innings next year. If they're able to kind of figure him out and get his tools working in the right direction, that's somebody who maybe could move quickly through their farm system as well. So 2 guys coming from the college ranks that they feel like they can kind of throw into the middle of their farm system and maybe see if they can progress quickly. And then 2 guys who are, you know, complete projects and guys who are going to be in rookie ball working their way from the ground up.
and Mississippi well represented among that group. Matt, I
which is
have,
not a very
yeah,
popular baseball state, I will say.
okay.
But Kevin Roberts Jr., the fourth round pick, was a high school teammate of Connor Griffin, who is the Pirates rookie phenom, was the number one overall prospect in
Ah,
baseball coming into this year. So Mississippi baseball pipeline, it's got some things going for him right now.
good fun fact. Before we turn the page to day two, I think we did this a little bit for the Ravens. We were talking about the Ravens draft. I remember Josh wanting to plug this too. Can we just pull back the curtain a little bit, Matt? It's weird. MLB, it makes sense because they, with the way college, like the college season and the way baseball's played, whatever, to do the draft during the summer. But it is strange the team is fully playing games while you're covering the draft. What have the couple days been like for you covering these, and what's it like for you covering the draft for you and Jacob? Can you pull back
Yeah,
the curtain a little bit?
it was definitely a little weird because they moved it up this year to be on Saturday, day one, and Sunday, day two. So both the first day one and day two going on during games. So from a beat reporter perspective, very chaotic. Obviously not happening at prime time. They've kind of pulled back. MLB has their draft festivities for the second straight year. No players were invited to go. They just have guys, back at home, and they'll do Zoom calls with them on the broadcast. They had multiple broadcasts. They started the first 10 picks on NBC and Peacock, and then they went over for the picks 11 through 40 on
So strange.
Peacock and MLB Network, and then they moved over to just MLB.com. And then day two is literally not even a broadcast. It's just like a screen where they have somebody come on a mic and say the name of the player and the team, and then this team's on the clock, and then they just go silent again, and then that's it. So there's not a whole lot of fanfare that MLB has with this draft. Kind of does feel like they've given up on that side of things on terms of trying to blow it up and make it a premier event like the NFL, like NBA, and even NHL, which NHL draft is similar in that a lot of players, and I've covered one before, a lot of players are drafted and that take a few years to get to the league. So there's a kind of that disconnect of like fans being excited for guys versus seeing them on their team the very following year. But what NHL has is, one, they can trade picks, which MLB doesn't allow you to trade draft picks except for a very few your competitive balance picks. But other than that, there's no trading. In the NHL draft, they have it in an arena. I went to the one in Nashville a couple of years ago when Connor Bedard was drafted number one overall. They have all of the GMs on the floor with each of their individual tables, all 30 teams, or 32 now, and they literally, you can do, as a media member, sit there and watch the GM of the team you're covering, walk over to another table, and you're like,
That's cool.
oh crap, oh shit, are they working out a trade? Like, what's going on here?
Oh, that's cool.
And you can literally see the drama unfolding in front of you. So their ratings maybe aren't as great, but I do think there's more drama built in, and some exciting things with that. MLB's draft, I mean, the commissioner didn't even pronounce the name of the number one pick correctly when he announced him. I mean, and he was not consensus, but the expected number one pick for a year. And you're going to go up there and mispronounce his name. Not a great look for Rob Manfred. But it's just kind of emblematic of where the draft is these days. It's not necessarily considered a marquee event. And I think MLB has just kind of accepted that it's just where it's going to stand.
Which kind of makes sense because there is a world where MLB could say like, hey, day one of the draft, first round, maybe even the second round too, like we could really build this up and make this a fun and cool and interesting thing, and then just like let the rest of the draft, because there are so many picks, be what it kind of is, which is just kind of flying through and not have that much fanfare. But to your point, the fact that none of these guys are going to be on a major league team for at least a couple of years, like there's just no juice for something like that for the average fan, let's say. But turn to day two, they make 16 more picks. Matt, any trends, any individual picks that stood out that you want to highlight? What was day two like?
Yeah, day two, they start off taking a lot of outfielders. Their first pick of day two was number 5, fifth round pick, shortstop Jimmy Anderson out of junior college. They actually drafted him for the second straight year. Was somebody that Will Robertson highlighted in his presser after game two as someone that they were excited to take, and someone they had been paying attention to, even though they did not sign him last year when they drafted him in the 20th round. He clearly made the right choice to go back to Heartland Community College because he improved his draft stock tremendously, now going in the 5th round, and maybe a bit of a reach for the Orioles on this pick. Baseball America ranked him the 465th overall player in the class. They take him at 142. So not sure if they felt like he wasn't going to slip as far as maybe Baseball America thought, but certainly somebody that they are very high on. And I mean, his numbers are cartoonish. He had 465, a 1574 OPS, 88 RBIs in 59 games. Not exactly playing the toughest of competition, being at the JUCO level, but certainly somebody who knew how to stuff the stat sheet and has a lot of tools. So he had already announced he's going to transfer to Kentucky, so he'll have to be pried away from that commitment, as is the case with a lot of Orioles draft picks. But certainly for him, it's somebody they're very familiar with and really honed in on, taking him right at the start of day 2. Going down the list here, a lot of pitchers, like I said, with ERAs in the 5s and the 6s, but one of the guys is 6'7" and throws 95, and they got another couple of guys who have gaudy strikeout numbers or impressed in collegiate summer leagues. So there are a lot of these players that they're taking in. College ERA, I have to stress, is one of the lowest on the bar of statistics that teams look at when drafting players. College ERA is extremely low. They're looking at strikeouts. They're looking at the stuff, the type of delivery that he has. Is it repeatable? Is it an injury risk? What kind of shapes do the guy's pitches have? And do they translate to facing major league hitters? Those kinds of things. Are they going to have to add more pitches to his repertoire? Or does he already kind of have a feel for 4 pitches that would work for him? Does his repertoire scream reliever or does it scream starter? There's tons of things that go into it. And it's not just about, at the end of the day, what a player did at 21 years old in college. So I did think it was interesting. All of their pitchers that they drafted were from the college ranks. They didn't take any high school pitchers, which is in line with Orioles' track record. They are not a team that has taken traditionally, I believe it's two high school pitchers in the entire Mike Elias era they have drafted, and none higher than the 5th round. And then their position players, they actually went into the high school ranks a lot. Taking a couple of guys that were interesting. Carlos Sanchez in the 10th round, who was playing for LSU Shreveport last year in the NAIA. Listed him as a utility man. He's played catcher, second base, and outfield. So Robertson did say that they'll see about him at catcher, but certainly they like his versatility. Really good numbers there. Played in the draft league, which has been growing as a way for players to get more and more attention, maybe who are lower on other teams' radars. And he really did well with a 984 OPS in that draft league. And then in the 12th round, catcher Leo Marrero, Robertson did say they intend to keep him at catcher. He's the lone full-time catcher that they drafted in this class, a high school guy there. Who is one of Florida's top 100 prospects coming out of the state this year, and currently committed to USF. So we'll see if they're able to pry away some of these guys. And with some of the players that they draft at the top, when you draft high school guys, you tend to sign them over slot, which means you have to sacrifice money elsewhere for some of your other picks. So that might mean some of these guys don't end up getting drafted or signed, I should say, at the end of the day. They might have gone all in on some of those guys towards the top. So we'll see kind of what that trickle down effect is for guys later in the draft. And one more guy I did want to highlight here, 15th round pick, Braden Smith out of UCF. Was UCF's Friday night starter to start the year. He actually had transferred over from Division II, was making the jump, and wasn't off to a great start, a 6.21 ERA in 8 starts, but was actually hit with a comebacker in the face and went to the hospital, suffered a concussion, facial fractures, cut on his face, and did not pitch again the rest of the season, but evidently has healed up enough for the Orioles to take a chance on him in the 15th round. So a cool story for him in terms of that comeback. Of his ability to bounce back from that, and the Orioles obviously liked what they saw from him in that short spurt of Division I well enough to take a chance on him. So a really interesting pick there as far as the story that he has, and we'll see kind of what he looks like on the mound. Maybe as soon as this year, considering that he wasn't able to pitch at all the rest of the season. Maybe they try to get him in if they do sign him on a mound and pitching in some games for the end of the season just to get a look at him.
Okay, so Mike Elias takes these 20 guys, writes them all down on a piece of paper, 11 pitchers, 9 position players. He brings it up to your desk. Professor Weyrich, he puts it on your desk, hands it to you, he walks away. What would you grade this Orioles draft?
Man, it's so hard to say at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
I do think that it is a interesting draft in the way that they went after the demographics that they don't usually go after in terms of
Okay.
the high school position players at the top, not just taking one, but two kind of big swings on day one. I would say that is not a very common strategy that the Orioles have employed throughout their time. So I do find it just kind of interesting that they were kind of willing to do that. I mean, clearly, if there's a takeaway here in terms of the current major league team right now, it's that the Orioles were not panic drafting and trying to get guys
Yeah.
who could get to the major leagues fast. They were clearly sticking to their board and going after guys that they felt like would be the best prospects for their system. Now, whether that means that some of these guys get traded in the next year to help bolster the major league roster, remains to be seen. They did exactly that last year in drafting Slater DeBrun, the aforementioned high school outfielder. They signed him to a big signing bonus, $4 million, and then promptly trade him in the Shane Baz deal over the offseason. They also traded their competitive balance pick that they had in this draft, which was their chance to get more signing bonus money and another day one pick. So they gave that up to get Shane Baz. So clearly they are in the business of giving up long-term potential to improve their team in the short term. But for Mike Elias, who may or may not be on the hot seat right now, it does not seem like their draft strategy was impacted by that whatsoever.
Notable, if nothing else. You want to pivot over and segue to the big league team? And again, I mean,
Yeah.
we talked about the outset, like they riding high into the break.
They're riding high into the break, and then right at the end, air out of the balloon. 4 straight wins, a big emphatic win over the Royals, and we walk into
Someone
Craig
took a little
Albernez's.
needle and went, "Dah."
Yep, and all that air came sucking right out because Blaze Alexander suffered a non-displaced fracture in his left hand on a hit-by pitch on Sunday. He is going to miss some time. Craig Albernez said he's going to meet with doctors over the All-Star break to determine next steps, but a non-displaced fracture is actually kind of good news. It means that there is a broken bone in his hand, but it didn't move out of place, so likely means that he won't need surgery. So that is good news. It would just kind of require him putting on a cast and resting it until it heals, and then doing rehab with it. What that timetable looks like, probably too soon to say, but I would imagine it's going to be around 8 weeks, which puts his return in the middle of September, which is not great. I mean, that's right at the end of the season, and Blaze Alexander has been one of their best hitters over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say, Matt, I was trying to find that Pete Alonso quote. Because that felt like, as much as anything, like kind of the voice of the clubhouse, finding that out. And Pete Alonso said today, I guess I said on Wednesday, or what day is it? He said on Sunday, quote, "We've got to rise to the occasion, especially now doubly rise to the occasion, being down Blaze. That's really frustrating. We've got to pick him up. We've got to pick him up. We have to play our best baseball, and then some in the second half." Him saying, we got to rise to the occasion, doubly rise. Like, it's just, it's a hit.
It's a big hit. I mean, he had just, the Orioles had kind of kept him down at the bottom of the lineup. They just finally put him up at that number 6 spot. It was only the 3rd time this season he had played in the number 6 spot in the lineup and clearly had been trending up. Blaze Alexander, .312 batting average going into the All-Star break. That is the highest batting average by an Orioles hitter going into the break with at least 250 plate appearances since Austin Hayes in 2023. And Austin Hayes, notably, started the All-Star game for the American League playing in left field. So he's been as good as a hitter on this team as there has been all year. And certainly just collecting the hits, getting some power, breaking out, playing defensively all over the field. Maybe had some error issues. He did have an error on Sunday, I believe another one earlier in the series as well. So some things maybe for him to clean up defensively, but still valuable enough that he was being played all over the diamond and could kind of fill in. He actually became the 2nd player in franchise history to play right field, second base, and third base all in the same game, earlier in this homestand. So that is going to be missed. And maybe that's going to be missed just as much as the offensive production that he supplied. But certainly going into the second half now, he stepped up in a way that Blaze Alexander wasn't expected to play as key a role as he has over the last month. I mean, certainly a guy that they wanted to help kind of backfill their utility man role and step in and be a potent right-handed bat. But what he has done at the plate this year has been basically what the Orioles had hoped Jordan Westburg would be. And now they are, out Westburg all year and will be without Blaze Alexander for the next month or two. And they're going to need guys like Kobe Mayo who has been absolutely crushing lefties lately. Jackson Holliday, who is, I think, coming into his own a little bit over the last week or so and drawing a ton of walks, showing good plate discipline there. And Jeremiah Jackson to kind of fill that spot. We've seen a couple of clutch hits from Jeremiah Jackson over the last few days as well. So all three of those guys now are going to be playing a lot more with Alexander out. They're also going to need their outfield to kind of step up. Tyler O'Neill, we've seen play well lately. We're going to see him more in right field with Blaze Alexander out of that picture. So all of these guys now just have to kind of find a way to do what were expected to do, because Blaze Alexander kind of covered for most of these guys in terms of stepping up when a lot of them were struggling. And now that they are playing a little bit better, they're going to have to do the same for Alexander while he's out.
Orioles win 6 of 9 to close out that first half. Where's your confidence level that they can carry this momentum despite the break in the schedule, and maybe also despite the fact that we've had this conversation over and over and over again about them sort of figuring things out and then plateauing again or falling down the slide? It's like game of chutes and ladders, it feels like.
Right. I mean, it's almost like the Orioles season is constantly being put on and off life support, and they've just pulled it back off, right? Like now you can kind of breathe a little bit because they've gotten into 2 games out of the wild card and they're surging, and some teams ahead of them have been struggling. So they've leapfrogged a couple of teams. The Blue Jays lost, so they are actually not in last place in the AL East going into the break, which they were going into Sunday's game. So they have that to build on. But now, I mean, it's going to be a test right out of the gate. They're going to play the Astros and the Red Sox coming right out of the All-Star break, and that's 2 teams that are right in front of them in the wild card race. So you want to talk about a measuring stick road trip for them coming out of the break. Once they hit the ground there in Houston, it's going to be an opportunity for them to start leapfrogging teams and maybe starting to provide some separation from the bottom of the standings and really cement themselves as buyers at the deadline. Because yes, they could do this by the end of the year, but really the deadline to really show that they are a team worth buying into is by August 3rd, which is the MLB trade deadline, and Mike Elias's deadline to decide if he's going to bolster this team or pull from it or maybe do a little bit of both. So we'll see what they can do, but certainly they have momentum. I am one who kind of believes in baseball that momentum game to game doesn't really exist. And it's kind of just because you have a different pitcher on the mound every day. You got different guys in the lineup. You know, maybe from at bat to at bat, you can kind of feel that a little bit, but from game to game, you know, who knows? I think it's Pixie Dust, Fugazi, Wolf of Wall Street reference there.
Fugazi.
Exactly. So, who knows if the 4 days might be a blessing for them. They've certainly had their bullpen taxed a lot, and had to, kind of use guys a little bit differently there. The rotation is pitching really well. You hope that the extra layoff doesn't disrupt any of them, that their hitters who have been kind of rounding into form right now, they don't let their timing get disrupted. But a lot of these guys are dealing with nicks and bruises, and with the exception of Adley Brushman, who will be going to Philadelphia for the All-Star game, this is a chance for all of them to get 4 days off, and I think a lot of them could probably use it.
Yeah, and as much as we've had the conversation about how much baseball they have left to figure this out as the trade deadline approaches, you said it there. That's kind of their deadline to really figure things out and figure out, or I should say, for Mike Elias and the rest of the front office to figure out whether this is a team in 2026 worth investing in. Let's do a little bit, kind of end on a retrospective here. Matt, how would you evaluate the first half as a whole? Because as we've talked about, it's hard to deny that it seems like as of right now, sans the Blaze Alexander injury, that these guys are kind of moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, they are 5 games under 500 at the All-Star break, which is not what I would think anyone could consider a success. But
it's not
at
good.
the same time,
Let's just say that up
it's
front.
not good. No,
it's not good.
But is it a passing grade simply because the Orioles or the American League is so wide open? Yeah, it kind of is. They have played about as well as the Mariners, who hold the 3rd wild card spot, because they're 2 games behind them. Who can say that the Seattle Mariners are that much better than the Orioles at this point? No team has really been able to pull away, and a lot of these teams are battling inconsistencies. And I was talking about this with Rob Long in the clubhouse today before the game, but it's almost like every team has either an offense that is playing really well and a pitching staff that's holding them back, or a pitching staff that's pitching really well and the offense is holding them back. And the Orioles, they actually have a lineup that is capable of putting up games like they had on Sunday when they score 8 runs, and also a rotation that is really trending in the right direction. And you would say all 5 guys in the rotation right now are trending in the right direction right now and pitching the best that they have all season. So, for this group with the Orioles, I think you can absolutely make the case that they are just as good as the rest of the teams in the wild card hunt. The question is are those inconsistencies going to keep popping up, or is it something that they're finally going to be able to shake off in the second half? So for the first half, I think I'd give them a C- overall grade. And I think it's a little generous, but I don't want to slap them with a D when they're 2 games out of wild card spot. I mean, I just don't think that you can at this point. You know, and they obviously missed some guys with injury. You know, Blaze is only the latest of that. Ryan Helsley is somebody who, that's another update here. Helsley not having to get Tommy John surgery, which is good news, but he is dealing with inflammation in his UCL and is shut down from throwing and is going to try and rehab it and come back later this year. It does feel a little bit like Felix Bautista in 2023 when he tried to put off Tommy John surgery and ultimately wasn't able to rehab and come back and had to have the surgery later that offseason. But for the Orioles, who with Ryan Helsley having a player option for next year, they don't really have much to lose in terms of giving Helsley a chance to try and rest this elbow up and get back to it. But Craig Albertaz did say unequivocally that there is not a tear, not a partial tear in the UCL. It is just inflammation. So if we're taking him at his word there, does seem like a chance that Ryan Helsley pitches meaningful games for the Orioles down the stretch. And they're hoping to get Felix Bautista back in the second half at some point as well. He has started his throwing progression, so maybe we see him take a rehab assignment here maybe late July, early August. Not sure exactly how far along he is in that throwing progression, but certainly encouraging stuff for him after coming off of a shoulder surgery last year, major shoulder surgery. To get him back would be a huge boost for this bullpen, which is maybe right now the weakest link for this Orioles team.
Matt, and we can kind of wrap up here, what is one reason that Orioles fans should be super confident in their ability to turn things around coming into the second half and should feel confident in buying into what this team is selling and what they'll be capable of doing? And what is one reason that a fan should not step foot in Camden Yards until 2027?
Yeah, I'd say a big reason to be optimistic is the rotation. Right now, I'd put up a lot of these guys against any starters in the majors. I mean, Shane Baz not going off on the best outing, only 4 2/3, but 1 earned run. We saw Dean Kramer, a great first start off of the IL, then maybe a couple of home runs there in his second start, but overall looking pretty good. Kyle Bradish carried a no-hitter into the 7th inning over the weekend, was absolutely fantastic against the Royals. We've seen Brandon Young just time and time again winning ball games, going deep into games as well. He pitched into the 8th inning in his last start. And then who am I missing? Trevor Rogers. How could I forget Trevor Rogers, who is also having his best stretch of the season, sub-2 ERA since the start of June. So really impressive stuff that we've seen from Rogers. So, we talk about the trade deadline, and if they're going to go out and get a player, at this point, they might actually need bats more than they need starting pitching. Who are you going to send down if you acquire a starter at the deadline? Brandon Young? I mean, he's been arguably your best pitcher all season. You're not going to send Dean Kramer down probably unless you get a true ace and you have to make that call. They did it obviously at the start of the year, but that would be a huge blow to send him back down to AAA. What they kind of need is a bat. And I was floating this in the press box today. Luis Ariz. With Blaze Alexander out right now, he is having, he's a contact hitter, a guy that Orioles fans have been clamoring for. Good, sound approaches, just put the ball in play. That is exactly what Luis Ariz does. He's actually been playing a Gold Glove caliber second base this year, and somebody who, from the left side of the plate, would really lengthen their lineup. So I don't know if they actually go out and trade for a hitter. They certainly will need bullpen arms if they do decide to buy at the deadline. But Luis Ariz is somebody who I think would be a great fit for this Orioles team.
And a reason that Orioles fans should not step foot in Camden Yards till 2027?
I would say that the offense is still looks as inconsistent as it has all year. And with the inexperience of the coaching staff being a relatively new staff, to leading a team, facing adversity, things like that. They're showing a lot of the same signs that they have throughout 2025 and the second half of 2024, and they just haven't gone on that sustained stretch where they're leading the league in home runs and looking like a true world-beating offense. And we've seen maybe some glimpses from time to time, but certainly at this point, it's kind of just show us what you got in terms of this lineup. And Gunnar Henderson has to step up and be Gunnar Henderson again. And I actually do think that Gunnar has looked a lot better. His swing and miss rate really far down right now, hitting the ball super hard. I know Orioles fans don't want to hear about exit velocities when he's hitting into ground balls, but is really squaring up balls and not chasing outside the zone, which was really the problem for him early in the year. So while he is struggling still, kind of his numbers, it's looking a lot very different from what it did early in the year when he was pressing and had a lot of swing and miss and just wasn't able to square up balls. So this Gunnar Henderson, I think, is one that is getting unlucky now and is kind of primed for a second half breakout. And maybe we still see the MVP caliber Gunnar Henderson that is expected of him in the second half. But as far as the pessimism goes, it's just kind of, you have to show it to us at this point.
Exactly, because they have a track record of the last year and a half of showing you in glimpses. There have been so many glimpses of what this team can be, and they have not done it for a sustained period of time. Perfect example is the fact that until this week, they did not get 4 wins in a row this season. So maybe this is where things change.
We shall see. All right, Sam. Thanks so much for taking the lead here, asking questions. It's been a fun show, diving into the draft, diving into this All-Star break. I am hitting the road tomorrow morning, or with y'all listening this morning, heading up to Philadelphia for the All-Star game. So be chatting with Adley up there, have a ton of coverage of him at the All-Star game, red carpet, all that kind of stuff. I'll be at the Home Run Derby, which is always a really fun event.
Nice.
So be sure to go over to BaltimoreSun.com and check out all the stories that we have coming over there. Sam, any final words for the good people?
Will you be getting a cheesesteak when you're in Philly?
Yes, this is actually the first time I'm going to Philly since I was 18 years old. So,
Wow.
And I was only there, I think I mentioned this before, about the Philly Cheesesteak Challenge, where I drove up and then drove back as a senior skip day thing, where I had to get a Philly cheesesteak and drive back.
Not familiar.
It's a Northern Virginia thing.
Okay.
You do skip day, and when the first bell rings, you leave the parking lot. And you have to get to Philly, have a cheesesteak, and get back before the last bell. And I just made it by like 20 minutes, I think. So
Wait, that's really awesome. Oh, do you have to sit down and eat it, or can you eat it in the car?
No, you have to sit down and eat it. You have to eat the whole thing in Philly. Eat that at the shop. I don't actually remember the one. I didn't pick it out.
That's a great idea.
Nor was I driving. It was a lot of fun. It was actually I did 3 senior skip days, so that was one of them.
Okay, I was going to say, did you do it 3 times? But that's awesome. And if you get one this week, you'll have to report back.
Yes, no, 100%. That is definitely at the top of the list. So, thank you all so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give us 5 stars on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you guys get your podcasts, and give us a follow. Engage with us on social media at Sun Early Birds on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. He's Sam Cohn. I'm Matt Weyrich. Thank you all so much for listening, and have a good one.